For the first time since the Lord's Ball, you're finally able to get some sleep. You woke this morning refreshed, but also a little anxious about the results of the will reading. You arrive back at Frege Manor and see that Beatrice, Leafy, Miriam, and Von Sanctus have all gathered, along with Miss Timor, who's accompanying Beatrice as her attorney. You're not really sure what to say to her after everything you've done. The air still feels too awkward to approach her and talk about it. Thank you all for coming here today. As William Frege's close associate, I must express my deepest condolences for your loss. I think I speak for all of Wyverngard when I say, enough, just get on with it. Sad and angry. Very well then. To get straight to the point, Lord Frege's will was magically sealed when it was given to me. He asked me, his executor, not to submit it to the courts and for probate until after his death. Although I imagine none of us expected such a time to come so unexpectedly. Anyways, Lord Frege's assets included sole ownership of several banking houses throughout Wyverngard, 10 million gold in various investments. 10 million? 10 million gold. You can't even begin to imagine what anyone could do with even a fraction of that wealth. And lastly, sole control and ownership of the Frege noble house. The executor takes out a large envelope and uses a runestone to spell the magical seal on it. I, William Frege, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. I hereby give, devise, and bequeath all of my assets and property, both real and personal, to Jaden Von Sanctus, provided that he enters into a legal and binding engagement with my daughter, Leafy Frege, within 6 months of the date of my death. What? That's... William must have added that addendum to prevent Von Sanctus from trying to steal his empire. But a legal and binding engagement is predicated on Leafy accepting it. She clearly doesn't want to go through with it, so if she simply waited 6 months, Von Sanctus wouldn't have any claim to the estate. In the event that Jane Von Sanctus does not enter in such an engagement within the specified time frame, my assets and property shall be distributed as such. Old House Frege will be divided equally among my children as per the laws of our kingdom. You were right. William Frege never disinherited Beatrice. This would make Miriam's testimony false. And since Beatrice would receive a portion of William's inheritance, she had a motive to commit the murder. You glance at Miriam. It's hard to read her expression, but something appears to be on her mind. Without a word, she walks out of the room, ignoring both Beatrice and Leafy. Leafy, on the other hand, seems to be in good spirits. Isn't this great, Beatrice? You can lead House Frege now, just as it should have been. Actually, about that, in light of recent events, I believe I should clarify one thing. As per the Slayer rule, if Beatrice Frege is found guilty in the current court case, her inheritance will be revoked and divided between you and your sister. I see. I shouldn't feel so happy for myself. That can't be all, can it? Surely William had a note of Leafy's obligation to marry my son. I'm not sure what you're trying to imply. Leafy Frege is an adult with legal autonomy. She is free to make whatever decision she wishes about who she legally marries. Now, if you'll excuse me. Wait, we're not finished yet. Come back here. I'd love to catch up with you, Leafy, but I was only allowed out of my cell to attend the reading. You notice an Inquisition Knight outside the door. He seems to be watching Beatrice intently. But don't worry, I'm sure once this misunderstanding is resolved, we can talk all we want about our family's future. Of course. A group of knights lead Beatrice out of the manor, and Leafy follows after them, leaving you and Celeste alone with Miss Timora. About what I did. Look, I'm not angry, Cuthbert. Oh? It was an extremely unforeseen situation, and Steelman clearly put you on the spot. You felt pressure to do something, and you made a rash decision. But I'm sure the court will understand if you withdraw. Wait, what? Cuthbert, you're not a prosecutor. You know that, right? Didn't you become an attorney to defend persecuted mages? But Beatrice is guilty. I saw it. I'm not going to argue about this again. You are going to withdraw. This is not up for discussion. You've always regarded and respected Miss Timora, and you suppose that's always made you deeply scared of disappointing her. Perhaps she's right. She knows more about what's going on than you do, and she's still your mentor. You want to believe that. You really do. But deep down, you know that this is wrong. Miss Timora may believe in Beatrice's innocence, but you can't just abandon this case and let her escape justice. Your hands are trembling. Why are you so scared right now? You know what you have to say, but the words won't leave your mouth. From behind you, you feel Celeste hold your trembling hand. It's warm and comforting. It's that same sensation you felt back then. Somehow you can feel it through her hand. It's as if she's silently telling you that you know what you have to do. Your anxiety fades and you take a deep breath. I'm not going to do that, Miss Timora. What? You said it yourself. Our court system needs a defense attorney and a prosecutor of equal power to keep things fair. That's not what I'm not going to withdraw. If you believe in Beatrice's innocence, and if you truly believe you're on the right side, then prove it by beating me. Fine, do what you want, but you're only going to make things harder for everyone. Tyrion? As soon as Miss Timora steps out of the room, your body drops to the floor. Whatever bravery you felt before got replaced with an extreme amount of fatigue. Skilled Lord, that's the first time I've ever spoken to her like that. But you still did it. You stood your ground. Figuratively, I mean, right now you're kind of just sitting on the floor. Yeah, I need to take a moment. Can we go back to the ballroom? You return to the ballroom and take a moment to recover. You spot Commander White at the edge of the room, but you don't pay him much notice. It takes you a while before you feel ready to stand. You okay? Yeah, I just needed a moment. Anyways, the will reading bought us a few more hours to investigate the murder. We should take advantage of the new information we just learned. So, where should we start first? Right. You're the prosecutor now, so that would technically make you his boss for the time being. This is weird, right? Yep. Awkwardness aside, I've never really led a task force before. What would Steelwind normally do in this situation? Well, she'd normally have us investigate areas of interest. Right. The context of the investigation tends to change after each round of court proceedings. Well, we're lacking a lot of physical evidence. Could you and the Inquisition search the gallery in Beatrice's room? Perhaps you can find evidence of how the Sword of Spellian was stolen. Whatever you say, boss. That covers the Inquisition, but what are we gonna do? It's clear that Lord Frega's inheritance plays a large role in this case. Even if it's not valid, we should take a look at the modified will that he was drafting. It might give us some insight about what he was really planning to do with this inheritance. I just can't wrap my head around it. Beatrice murdered her own father for what? Wealth and power? That's just how the aristocracy works. Even the weakest noble has a large amount of political power. Sometimes I feel lucky that I grew up in Cornhaven. Where should we go next? William retreated into his study to draft a new will. Even if it's not valid, we should try to look for it there. It might give us some insight into the headspace he was in that night. To be honest, it kind of looks tacky. Their notion of aesthetics must fly over the heads of peasants like us. I don't know if that was the same as before, but that might be. These chandeliers look fancy enough to be worth a small fortune. The banking houses are loaded, aren't they? But otherwise, that was all that was here before.
Imperio Arcanum!
What's interesting is, it looks like there's a shadow here for... Okay, the lights actually seem to be on top of the thing. For a second I was thinking, like, are these the lights? In which case you only have the shadow, but... if they're actually up there, I guess that would be there. Come on, where is it? As you enter William Frega's study, you spot a figure rummaging through the drawers in his desk. Why isn't it here? Where else would he put it? Miriam? What? Huh. I never noticed, but it looks like her eyes are white. We need to see... Actually, no, Beatrice would be a bad reference, wouldn't it? As soon as she notices you, Miriam quickly closes the drawers and walks towards you. But you already saw what she was doing. She was definitely looking for something. This is a crime scene. What are you doing here, Miriam? As if that's any of your business. She's afraid of us. Considering that I'm the prosecutor, it's very much my business. You give a side glance at the night station outside the room. They should have stopped her from entering, but perhaps she used her status to intimidate them into letting her through. However, this could be a blessing in disguise. She was clearly looking for something in this room, and you have a feeling you know what it is. You appear to be looking for something, Miriam. What could be so important that you disturb an active crime scene? It's none of your concern. I'm merely trying to find something that belongs to me. Fear. Really? Because I have a feeling that we might be looking for the same thing. You're looking for the will that your father was drafting, aren't you? That's... Were you trying to destroy it before we could get to it? No, of course not. I just need to see it for myself. Did she really do this? Oh, is she also suspicious of Beatrice? It's a bookshelf filled with books. Wonder what kind of books Lord Frege owned. Wait a minute, they're all blank. All of his real books are on the floor under his desk. It's a painting of some sort of scholar. There's some text on it. Rook Ressinger, I think I've actually looked at him before. Rook the Cook, yep. Sometimes I wish I could have a nickname like that. What about Crimson Demon? Not that one. It's a fireplace. William must use this to keep warm during the winter. There are several books about economics and politics. It doesn't look like there's anything of note. There's a pool of blood and a chalk outline where the body must have been. There's a large mahogany table at the end of the room. Lord Frege must have done his work here. There's a window that leads into this room. Supposedly it's magically reinforced. Well, let's find out.
Arcanum.
There's a trace of illusion magic where the body was. Salem must have used some kind of magical disguise. Or they turned themselves invisible. Why are you so determined to see the drafted will, Miss Frege? I just wanted to see what my father's final wishes were. By the way, do you notice right there he called her Miss Frege, and beforehand he was referring to her as Miriam? Not very consistent. But your father already had a will filed previously. Wouldn't that be enough? More fear? You also suspect something, don't you? Of course not. Beatrice would never do something like this. Miss Frege, I'd never even mentioned Beatrice. I know how things may look, but please understand, I'm just trying to get to the truth. I don't think your sister did this, but she may have been involved. She may have worked with someone else to orchestrate her father's death. Unlike Leify, she didn't immediately deny it. This means that she already had her own suspicions. Where is the will, Miriam? I need to see it. I don't know. I haven't been able to find it. You recall that she was frantically searching William's desk earlier. She's probably telling the truth. It should have been here, but I can't find it. He locked the door when he began drafting it. In addition to that, the Inquisition closed the area off after the body was discovered. That means that someone took it during the lockdown. So we mentioned the time frame, and that it's missing. It was probably stolen by whoever murdered him, right? Yeah, that would make the most sense. Which means that whoever did this wanted to nullify whatever's written on it. It's looking more and more like the motive behind this was William's inheritance. Anyways, it looks like we won't be able to find the will. But the fact that it was taken must imply something. For now, we should follow our other leads. There's also the question of who committed the murder and how. Don't we already know the how? The murderer stole the Sword of Spell-Eating and used it to break into the study. That's true, but think about how they would have needed to move around the manor. The murder took place on the first floor within William Frege's study, so that's here in the corner. But the gallery was on the second floor, up here. They would have needed to go upstairs, steal the sword from the gallery, and then use it to nullify the lock on the study. Not only that, they would have needed to go back upstairs and plant the sword in Beatrice's room. About that, if someone conspired with Beatrice to do this, why would they plant the sword in her room? That's a good point. Perhaps they had a falling out. Her partner might have tried to betray her by pinning the blame on her. But if that were true, why wouldn't she just sell them out and make a deal with Steelman? It would be because of the Slayer rule. Slayer rule? I remember the guy at the will reading also mentioned that. Yeah, I guess that would be right. I was thinking it would be more proper to say mentionee, but what is it? It was a law passed by the Crown centuries ago. According to the law, if someone is involved in another person's death, even accidentally, they will not be allowed to inherit the deceased's property. So even if Beatrice wasn't directly responsible, she'd lose her cut of the inheritance if she took a plea deal. More importantly, it doesn't sound like Miriam completely believes in Beatrice's innocence either. If that's true, what else can she tell you? Miriam, it almost sounds like you suspect Beatrice as well. That's... Am I incorrect? I don't know what to think anymore. Why else would she threaten me? Wait, she was threatened? Miriam, did Beatrice threaten you in some way? What? Of course not. Your testimony yesterday was quite convenient for the defense. It almost got the whole case thrown out. And Leafy didn't seem to understand what was going on either. With the way she gave her testimony yesterday, it was almost like she was covering for you. Does he seriously not know? Please, promise me that you won't tell anyone about this. I won't tell anyone what happened. About an hour after the murder, I was approached by Ruby Timora. She gave me a list of statements to give in my testimony. The statements weren't true, but she assured me that my status would protect me from any scrutiny. What? She had information that I had tried to keep secret, and she threatened to make it public unless I cooperated with her. No, she would never do that. I'm telling the truth. Please, you can't tell Timora that I told you. She'll ruin me. The eye shows that her fear is genuine. She's not lying. I've seen that woman do all kinds of shady shit in the cases I've worked. Forgery, bribery, blackmail, you name it. I'll bet you're just the same, a successor for the devil of defense attorneys. The rumors, they can't be true. You refuse to believe it. Hey, Tyrion, are you okay? Now is not the time to doubt yourself. There's too much at stake right now, and you have a job to do. We should check on Commander White. He might have found something. Okay? Just don't push yourself, okay? Yeah. You'll have plenty of time to think about this later. As you move around the manor, you peek into the same room to see if Von Sanctus is still there. You don't see him there, but you spot another individual. He's calmly reading some sort of book, but you can feel a menacing aura emanating from him. This aura? You must be daft if you think I wouldn't notice your presence. What? Did he notice you? You barely entered the room. Before you have a chance to respond, the man pulls out his great axe and rushes towards you. Wait, You bring up your arms to block his blow, but in hindsight, that probably won't do much against an axe that large. Protegus. You open your eyes. Celeste is now standing between you and the axe-wielding maniac. You're not sure what happened, but it looks like she knocked him several feet backward. Oh, it's you two. What the hell was that? You could have killed him. He shouldn't have snuck up on me like that. I almost cleaved him in two. Tyrion didn't do anything wrong. Who the hell do you think you are? I am Lord Lucio Steelwind, Grand General of the Wyvern Military Forces. So this is Prosecutor Steelwind's father. They do share the same intimidating stare. Although, he's not the most menacing person in the room right now. Celeste, it's fine, I'm not hurt. She looks more than irate right now, but she begrudgingly sheathes her sword. Anyways, Lord Steelwind is one of the people with the motive to murder William Frege. And as a fellow head of a pillar house, he might have some information about William and his affairs. If looks could kill... McCoy. One might misinterpret that look of yours as murderous intent. Guess you do have some battle instincts after all. I honestly wasn't sure, since you so obviously have a silver spoon stuck up your... Celeste? Such lack of respect and discipline. If you were one of my soldiers, I'd have you hung. If I was one of your soldiers, I'd hang myself. Okay, let's all try to stay civil here. Lord Steelwind, you were here at the Lord's Ball when the murder occurred, am I correct? I was. Do you mind if I ask you some questions about what you saw that night? If that's okay with you. I suppose I must oblige, considering that my daughter has so unceremoniously thrust her responsibilities onto you. I'm sorry about what happened to your daughter. I'm sure that you're very worried. It's her own fault for exerting herself despite her injuries. Huh, sadness and fear. Should also point out he's 76 years old, so he had to have been in his mid-50s when Arya was born. Even the bravest warrior knows when to stay off the battlefield. How can you say that? Your daughter was trying to do the right thing. By prosecuting the heirs of House Freyga? She had very little evidence to substantiate a conviction. If she wanted to strike a blow on a rival house, she should have been certain that her enemy would fall. But now, if Beatrice Freyga is found innocent, any hopes of an alliance between House Freyga and House Steelwind will be completely annihilated. It's clear that he and the prosecutor have vastly different priorities. Where were you throughout the night, Lord Steelwind? I so loathe gatherings like that. They're a complete waste of time. I was in this room, but then I received word that Lord Freyga's lost heiress had made an unexpected appearance. She was supposedly speaking with the Crown Prince, so I made my way to the ballroom. Did you speak with him at any point? No, I kept my distance and stayed near the King's Guard. I needed to make sure she wouldn't try anything. Was this because you were wary of Beatrice Freyga? Yes, I was. The Crown Prince has always been a bleeding heart, and the Freygas are trained to sharpen their tongue from birth. I needed to make sure that she wouldn't try to interfere with his engagement. You were worried that she was going to try to take Aster back. I was, but it was clear that wasn't her intention. But you did overhear their conversation. What were they talking about? Their conversation was completely inane, it was all just small talk. Lady Freyga spent most of her time playing with Prince Elaric. Right, Aster's younger brother was there too. You know that Beatrice had some role in the murder, even if she wasn't directly responsible. Did she have some unknown goal by speaking with Aster and his brother? You went to the ballroom when you heard that Beatrice had returned. Was this before or after the lockdown? It was before the lockdown. That sounds about right. This means that she was accounted for before the theft was reported. And did you see her leave at any point? No, she spoke with the two princes for a while. She didn't leave their side until she was arrested for Lord Freyga's murder. What? That means she was accounted for the entire night. So we have her alibi substantiated. But her thoughts said she was an accomplice in William's death. Was she there to distract the King's Guard? Thank you for answering our questions, Lord Steelwind. I'm merely repaying my daughter's debt to you. He was surprisingly pretty cooperative, but that doesn't lift any suspicion off of him just yet. You'll need to find more evidence if you want to know for sure. Anyways, we should probably move somewhere else. Let's go, Celeste. McCoy? What? Your spellcasting is undisciplined, but your battle stance and reflexes are commendable. You have my respect as a warrior. As if that means anything coming from you. What an undisciplined and defiant brat. It's a painting of some adventurers in a tavern. Supposedly one of Freyga's ancestors was part of a band of adventurers, but you can't help but feel there should be someone in the top left corner. Shelf filled with books, fake books. Chair made from mahogany. Wealth of siphoned out of the townsfolk. A door that leads into a hallway. Perhaps we should have considered locking it to keep out intruders. Crap. So... yeah, he flickers on there for no reason, I guess. There's a window with a view of the outside.
Repario Arcanum!
Keep it in that corner. Don't let it get away. Get away from him! As you enter Beatrice's room, you see the Inquisition cornering something near the back of the room. It's some sort of animal. A wolf, to be exact. Wait, is that? You recall spotting that same wolf on the night of the Lord's Ball. Has it been in the house since the murder? Intruders must protect Queen. Anger and fear. What? Did you just read his thoughts? Protect territory from enemies. He must see the Inquisition as intruders in his territory. But does that mean he sees this room as his home? You slowly start to walk towards him. Wait, Tyrion? Stay back, kid. It's a wild animal. There's no telling what it'll do. You ignore them and continue to approach him. Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you. Huh? This human, he can speak language of dog? Wait, you can understand me? Why are you talking to it? You're speaking plain dog, of course Tracker understand. What's going on here? Is the Eye of Horus allowing you to speak with him? You've never really tried it before, but perhaps your powers aren't limited to humans. Anyways, this could be a good opportunity. You wonder what else he knows. Tracker, is that your name? How did you... Yes, Tracker is Tracker. That's the name Queen gave me to me. Occupation, dog. Tracker gestures to Leafy when he mentions his queen. He called you his queen. Do you know him, Leafy? Yes, but how? How are you talking to it? That's... You were so caught up in speaking to Tracker, you didn't realize how strange the scene must look to everyone else. I'm a dog whisperer. You've never mentioned that before. Do you honestly expect us to believe something like that? But Tracker says he can understand him. He told me himself. Wait, how do you do that? How do you know that? Fear? Ah, she didn't say she's also a dog whisperer. That's no fun. So, Leafy, how are you able to communicate with Tracker? I suppose there's no sense in hiding it anymore. Tracker is my familiar. Familiar? So it's the same magical bond Harold has with his monkey. You recall that the familial bond spell allows the caster to telepathically speak with their familiar. That must be how she's speaking to him. You never mentioned him during the questioning. It wasn't relevant to the investigation, and I've been keeping him a secret from my family. I suppose that makes sense. I doubt William Frege would have allowed you to keep an animal in his home. Well, I don't appreciate you keeping this info from us. But it doesn't look like anyone got hurt. And aside from this dog, we haven't really found anything new. Damn it. They didn't find any more physical evidence of the theft. It looks like you've run into another dead end. Unless... Tracker. I saw you on the night of the murder. You what? Tracker? Ruh-roh. He's supposed to stay in this room. Wait, is that why you don't allow the servants to enter it? I didn't want to keep him in Beatrice's room, but he was very insistent that he stay here. Tracker likes the ambience. Right. Wait, if you live in this room, did you see who brought the Sword of Spell Eating here? I already asked him about that, but he didn't see anyone. He must have been taking a nap. Or he was outside, even though I told him not to leave. Damn it. Tracker see a lot of other things, though. Tracker see many new people that night. Right, he was roaming the manor during the Lord's Ball. He must have seen a lot of new people. Wait, if he was walking around, he might have seen something that the Inquisition doesn't know about. Can you tell us what you saw on the night of the murder, Tracker? Tracker see rats. This may be more difficult than you thought. I need you to be more specific. Can you go in order? Tell me about everyone that you saw that night. Okay. Tracker was taking nap in room, but Tracker woke up from loud sound outside. Tracker hears small things running in the walls. Running the walls. Tracker called Queen, but she didn't answer, so Tracker decided to check sound alone. Tracker follows sound outside. That's when Tracker smelled the bat smell. Bat smell? That's when Tracker smelled flying rat. You smelled a flying rat. Did you mean like a pigeon? Tracker could smell where Rat was, so Tracker borked at him. Tracker must have scared Rat because he fell onto the floor and dropped his stick. The rat had a stick. Tracker could see them now, so Tracker did one final bork to scare them off. The rats were scared and went back into the walls. It went into the walls. That's when Tracker picked up the stick Rat dropped. Queen finally answered Tracker. She told him to go back to his room and hide. After message, Tracker brings stick back to room for inspection. Do you remember what time this encounter happened? What is time? Right. An animal wouldn't really have a concept of that. What did he say, Tyrion? Did he see anything? Well, he definitely saw something. Okay, let's try to take a moment to work through this. Tracker is an animal, and despite being able to speak with him, his use of words is very primitive. So you should carefully examine each of his statements. The first thing he heard was small things running on the walls. You recall that someone else observed something similar that night. So this was Jan. So we'll say the thief hid. Oh, caused. Rats running in the vents. Oh. Okay, so we're actually one step behind. Tracker heard rats running in the vents. The servants were complaining about rats running through the air vents, so they sent me to take care of it. I heard one of them running in the vents upstairs, and I followed it here. I figured I had nowhere else to go, so I opened it up and put a trap down. He must have heard the rats that Jan mentioned. They weren't actually running in the walls. They were running in the vents. The next thing he did was call the Queen, but she didn't answer. The Queen that he's referring to is probably Leify, but Leify wasn't with him at the time. He must have called out to her telepathically. So why didn't she hear it? The familial bond was nullified by an anti-magic field. Leify didn't respond because she never got Tracker's message. The telepathic capabilities granted by familial bond were disabled by the anti-magic field. Which means that this encounter happened during the lockdown. So that covers his first two statements, but you're not really sure what to make of the flying rat he saw. Tracker, why did you refer to the rat as flying? Because rats don't usually jump and fly. Yes, I got that. Is it possible that what you saw wasn't really a rat? Rats are rats, they're small things that run and hide. So rat is a general term for him. Use it to refer to small animals that are acting suspiciously. Anyways, with everything you know now, his last statement doesn't make sense. He said that the Queen finally answered him, and this happened after he picked up the stick. But that shouldn't have been possible because of the anti-magic field. The sword that Tracker obtained was actually this... okay, it's lined up for us. Oh. This is so stupid. The stick was actually the sword of spell eating. That is such a cement. Tracker, about that stick you found. Where did you put it after you came back to this room? Tracker hides stick in safe space under the bed. And this stick, did it look like the sword my friend is carrying? What? Hey, your friend stole my other stick. Wait, your other stick? Yeah, Tracker found it while he was hiding from the Metal Men. Metal Men? Is he referring to the Kingsguard? He must have left the bedroom when they were searching for the sword of spell eating. Wait, are you the one who stole Celeste's sword? Tracker? Did Tracker do bad? It's as I suspected. Tracker was the one that brought the sword of spell eating here. What? I have no idea how or why, but the sword of spell eating was lying in a hallway somewhere. Tracker found it and brought it back to Beatrice's room. His room? That can't be. So the person who framed Beatrice for the theft was... it weren't for Tracker, the Inquisition would have never honed in on Beatrice at all. But why would the sort of spell eating be lined in a random hallway? Leafy, do you mind if I borrow Tracker for a little bit? It's okay, Queen. He smell good. Tracker trust him. Thanks, I guess. Okay, but only if you allow me to accompany you. You know about Miriam's position, but how does Leafy feel about your prosecuting Beatrice? It's possible she might try to sabotage the investigation if you let her accompany you. But as Tracker's owner, you don't really have a choice. You nod to Leafy, but you also send a subtle gesture to Celeste to keep an eye on her. She silently nods and slowly follows behind her. Alright, Tracker, can you take us to the hallway where you found these rats? Sure thing, King. Looks like you've received a promotion. So, out of curiosity... Tracker, don't... Distracted by a squirrel. Oh, that's no fun. You allow Tracker to lead you to the location where he found the sort of spell eating. Surprisingly, it's fairly close to Beatrice's room. He apparently didn't travel very far before he met those rats he mentioned. Anger and fear. As you continue towards your destination, Tracker suddenly becomes extremely tense. Tracker, what's wrong? Enemy. Oh? Before you even have a chance to react, Tracker steps between you and Iris and begins angrily barking at her. Oh dear. Tracker, stop that! Leafy tries to calm Tracker down, but he's undeterred. He continues to bark at Iris, and it looks like it's taking all of Leafy's strength to hold him back. I'm terribly sorry, he's not usually like this. It's to be expected. I'm not sure why, but animals have always been able to see me for what I am. Not sure why they've always disliked me. What is Iris doing here? You recall seeing her at the barracks, too. She said that her father is friends with Beatrice, but is she involved in this case somehow? Anyways, you came here for a purpose. You should examine this hallway and see if you can find any clues. What are you doing here, Iris? I should be asking you the same thing. I recall you telling me that you were a defense attorney. Yet here you are, prosecuting a defendant. You're even leading the Inquisition that you supposedly hate so much. But to answer your question, I'm here on behalf of Beatrice. My sister? Yes. I had to sneeze there for a second. Yes, Timora is occupied handling other aspects of the case, so she sent me here to investigate on her behalf. What? She would have to trust you a lot to let you handle something so important. How do you two even know each other? You said she was acquainted with your father, but... we met during her days at the Imperial Academy. We both studied illusion magic together. So... I'm trying to think of Beatrice's age. Can we pull that up? So real quick, just want to make sure I didn't miss anything there. 23, and Iris is supposed to be 16. So yeah, it's not really possible for the two to have met. I've always been a patron of hers. It saddens me to see her in this dreadful situation. These crystals supposedly generate an anti-magic field during the lockdown. However, the sort of spelling would make its wielder immune to these fields. There's an air vent over here. It appears to go from the ceiling to the ground floor. Is this where that rat escaped to, Tracker? That's where the jumping rat went. I thought you said it was a flying rat. Tracker, see that too. Okay, it would probably be better to just move on. Anyways, where did this rat come from? Rat, come out the other wall. Do you mean the vent on the opposite side? Yes, Tracker saw a flying rat escape that way. What was this rat doing here in the first place?
Repario Arcanum.
So I assume there's a magnifying glass off-screen. What? What do you see? The vents have traces of illusion magic inside them. What? The traces also go deep inside these vents. it's the same for the vents on the other side, too. Why would there be traces of illusion magic inside the vents? What spell could have possibly left those traces? As I told you many months ago, illusion spells tend to do one of two things. They either create freestanding illusions, or they can disguise an existing creature. I doubt someone created a freestanding illusion in the vents, so a disguised creature must have been inside these vents at some point. But these vents are tiny. No one would be able to fit inside them. Tracker can see them now, so Tracker did one finally bork to scare them off. The rats were scared and went back into the walls. But a rat would be able to fit in these vents. Well, yeah, I guess that'd be true. But that would mean that rat had an illusion spell active on it at the time. It's not only that. He said that the queen finally answered him, and this happened after he picked up a stick. But that shouldn't have been possible because of the anti-magic field. Tracker saw this rat during the lockdown. They would have been inside the anti-magic field created by the lockdown. There can only be one way that rat could have an illusion spell active on it. Wait, you can't mean that rat was holding the sword of spell eating. So we have the dog's testimony now. What? But how is that possible? A rat wouldn't have the strength or hands to carry the sword. Tracker's vocabulary is primitive and limited. He uses the word rat to describe small creatures that hide and act suspiciously. But even if it wasn't an actual rat, it still couldn't have been a human, right? You're right. It would have been a small animal. A small animal with the strength and dexterity to traverse a small air vent while holding a sword. Sorry, but I really have to ask, is that a monkey riding on your back? Yes, this is my familiar Eugene. No, are you serious? We know that Harold had a motive to kill William Frege. He was planning to defund the Heralds and Hall of History. They had an argument that night, and that's when William Frege decided that he was going to defund Harold's museums. He must have struck a deal with Beatrice, and with Beatrice's portion of House Frege, she could have easily kept his museums funded. He could have faked the robbery and sent his familiar to murder William. I can't believe this. And there's something else that Tracker said. Tracker could smell where Rat was, and Tracker borked at him. Tracker must have scared Rat because he fell onto the floor and dropped his stick. The rat had a stick. Tracker, you said you had to smell to see where the rat was. And when he dropped his stick, you were finally able to see him. Does this mean you couldn't visually see him before he fell down? Yeah, Tracker couldn't see the rat with his eyes, so Tracker used his nose to see it. The monkey was invisible? No one would have noticed a small invisible animal. In addition to that, he moved through the air vents. Eugene would have been nearly undetectable that night. Beatrice is a master of illusion magic, so it's possible that she cast invisibility on Eugene. So I'm looking at that incantation, Occultare, and then you clap both hands together like she usually does for her meditation thing, or what we're going to call her focusing crap. Lasts an hour with no concentration requirement, highest form of illusion magic, makes the target creature or object completely invisible. About to yawn, 1 second. Okay. While invisible, the target will be completely transparent and undetectable visually. If targeting a creature, the spell will also affect anything that the creature is wearing or holding. And then there's the position of this air vent. We're currently in the hallway just north of Beatrice's room, and this air vent connects to the ground floor. If we align the two floor maps together, this vent must lead to the storage room. Right, the air vent there curves upwards. This must be where it leads. And according to Jan, that air vent led directly to William's study. It would have been the perfect route to enter William's study and leave undetected. But he wouldn't have needed to nullify the lock to enter that room. Why would he need to use the sword of spell eating at all? Because of familial bond. They can telepathically communicate with each other. Harold probably needed Eugene to hold the sword so he could tell him exactly where to go. The sword's magic affects anyone magically connected to the wielder, and familial bond connects them magically. It makes sense now. Harold could have easily faked the robbery to take suspicion off of him. It's even possible that he was lying about how the display glass was shattered. but I've known Lord Haraldson for many years. I just can't believe that he'd be involved in this. She may have known Harold for a long time, but she's never read his thoughts. His thoughts are very hostile and rude, despite his kind expression. He's very good at hiding what he's truly feeling. And Beatrice, there's no way she'd participate in a plan like this. Look, Leafy, I know you don't want to suspect your sister, but it's not that. Beatrice would never trust anyone enough to work together like this. But she's completely blind. She wouldn't have much of a choice. Even so, she's not the type of person to trust her accomplice to stay quiet. She'd find a way to carry out a plan herself, and she'd only employ someone else's help if she had full control of them. Leafy probably knows her better than you do, but you doubt that working alone would be possible with her condition, and you can't think of any other way she'd be involved in this. Anyways, we're finished here, aren't we? Yes, thank you for lending Tracker to us, Leafy. I only want to help find out what really happened. Don't make me regret trusting you, Mr. Cuthbert. If you're truly on the side of justice, then you won't. Good. Now if you'll excuse me. So that's it, right? We finally know who really committed the murder, then. And if you can get Harold to confess on the stand, he might reveal Beatrice's involvement as well. If he does that, you might be able to convince her and Miss Timora to take a plea deal. Although, knowing Miss Timora, that'll be easier said than done. Anyways, this is definitely the lead that we've been looking for. But is it really enough? We still don't have any physical evidence. It'll have to do for now. We're running out of time. We'll just have to call Harold to the stand to testify about what he did that night. If I can push him far enough, I might be able to catch him lying. But you doubt it'll be that easy. He has a good poker face. Just how much will he be able to hide his true thoughts? I already gave my statement to the Inquisition. Is my testimony really necessary? Sorry, old-timer, my orders come straight from the prosecutor. We're going to need you on the stand today. Sorry. I understand. I'll do what I can to help. I need to grab something to drink. I'll be back.